So let's go ahead and look at how can we go a little bit further with our select statement. So let's look at bringing multiple tables together through a join. Right now we have a select statement that just queries the customer table, and we're getting back customer ID, name type, title, first name, last name, middle name, suffix. We have company name, salesperson, email address, phone, password hash, password salt, row GUID, date modified. But we're not getting any address data. So let's go ahead and join in a second table. So to do that, we would use a join statement as part of the from clause. And what the join is going to do is going to allow us to query two tables at the same time. And in doing so, we're going to actually link the rows of data between the two tables using the join. So inside of here, we've got a customer ID, which is considered the primary key. Every row has a unique identifier in this table, and that unique identifier is the customer ID. What we want to join on is another key field that may link or relate to our primary key. So let's go ahead and before we actually finish our join, let's just do a select star from salesLT.customer address. And let's take a look at the data that's in just that table. So I'm going to select that query statement and I'm going to hit execute. And by highlighting it, it'll restrict the query to only run that line of code. So we'll see here that we're getting back a whole selection of, there's 417 rows inside of customer address, but we'll also notice that the customer ID, they start pretty high. They're up like the 20,000s. So we're going to obviously end up with a subset because we've got customer IDs that start all the way back to 1. And that's okay. So by doing this, we're going to join on the customer ID from customer address. And we're going to join that to the customer table's customer ID as well. So we're join, and then we have to give the name of the table we want to join to. So salesLT, that customer address, and then we want to join on the customer.customer ID and set that equal to customer address dot customer ID as well. Then we can actually go ahead and drop this where statement, and we can drop the second select because that was just kind of us exploring what columns we could get out of customer address. So go ahead and hit execute on this, and now we get back our rows. You'll notice we're only getting back 417 of them because we're using a join. Now this join is more traditionally called an inner join, where we're interjoining the two tables together, and we only get back rows where the two tables match. So even though there may have actually been, if we highlight the customer and run it by itself, there's 847 rows. Inside the customer table, there was only 417 inside of customer address. We only will be able to get back, in this case, the 417 rows. Now, as we scroll over here, we're going to notice that we see all rows from customer, and then the join occurs where we then get added on all of the customer address columns. So here's customer ID again, address ID, address type, and a row GUID. So these additional columns are the columns that are coming from customer address. Now, customer address doesn't actually give us the address data that we need, so we have to do another join, and there's an address table, and I would safely guess that the address table and the address ID coming out of customer address are probably related in some way. So we'll go ahead and do another select, star, salesLT.address. And this isn't required to go and write these statements ahead of time, but it's a nice habit to get into as you start exploring a database of, hey, there's a field or a column, it's named address ID. ID columns are usually primary keys or foreign keys. In this case, I'm thinking address ID is a foreign key to the address table. So I'm going to go ahead and query the address table. And sure enough, I'm able to find an address ID column that is the primary key for the address table. So that's where I would want to build my join. So again, I'll do an inner join in this case, salesLT.address. And I'll join in this time on customer address dot address ID equals the address dot address ID. Now we'll go ahead and execute again. So the first set of columns is still from the customer table. Go all the way up to date modified. The next set of columns is from customer address, so that's the customer ID, address type, row GUID. and modified date. Then after that modified date, we have address ID appearing again, and this is actually data from the address table. So address line 1, 2, city, state, province, country, region, postal code, and row code. So all of that data then is coming from those three tables combined or joined together. Now if we only want to get subsets of those, we can come into our select and take out the star, and we can do things like customer.firstname, comma, customer.lastname, comma, address.address1, comma, address.city, address.state in province, and address.zip code, or it's postal. And then we can even come here and say customer address dot address type. Let's verify here. It's address line 1. So now we're just going to grab those specific columns out of all three tables combined. We'll also go ahead and grab dot title. And now if we execute the query again, we'll still get back 417 comma 417 rows, but we're only getting back those specific columns. And that allows us to then limit or filter the content that we're getting back from our query, and that maybe end up used for something like a report or something of that sort. So title, first name, last name, address line 1, city, state, province, postal code, and address type. So that was us combining multiple tables together using the inner join.